All right. Hey, welcome to LinkedIn Life Live. I'm Bill McCormick.
I'm Brynne Tillman.
Brynne, who's joining us today?
Jeff Bajorek, who, oh my gosh, is hands down one of the best sales experts I've ever talked to. He has such incredible insights, and I can't wait for him to share on, I think, is one of the most important topics that salespeople do wrong today, which ultimately is around discovery. Jeff, welcome.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for doing this. Thank you for having me. We talked in what we like to call on the wine in the bar, green room, right? And I'm like, I've gotten so much to take away and go do myself that I'm learning from you that I really need to take notes so I can remember after we do this. But discovery, you want to talk about discovery? Cool.
Yeah, well, first, we definitely do. But first, just tell everyone a little bit about you and just so they could get to know you a little bit. And I'll put kind of your information up here so they can connect with you and just share. And then we'll jump right in.
Thank you. I'm an author, a consultant, a trainer, a coach, a speaker. I do a lot of things, right? I like to have conversations like this with people like you, and not just other leaders and people who have, followings and audiences and like to train people, but I like to roll up my sleeves. As I like to say, I like to roll up my sleeves and do good work for people who like to roll up their sleeves and do good work, right? So you're passionate about what you do. You're clear about what your why is. You're clear about who you can help, and you're just not getting the results that you're looking for. There aren't that many things that you can do to make more sales, right? But there are a lot of different things that get in your way. And I like to dig in and solve those kinds of problems. So that's why I like having these conversations. I'm always talking. I'm always learning. And this is fun. I get to do this for a living, which is really
cool. No, right? It is fun.
It's great. It's great. So I read a quote by you. Help, and I'm looking at my screen for it. Help your customers see what they can't see on their own. That's what discovery is all about. And it's from your blog. How to balance prospecting and discovery. So talk a little bit about that. So let's start unpacking that.
I was on, I did a webinar. I was part of Jason Bay's. Brynne, I believe you were part of Jason Bay's kind of Think Outside the Script tour last year too. And I got a question during that webinar that I wasn't able to get to during the webinar. We had a lot of engagement, had a lot of people. I mean, we went for like 90 minutes and we still didn't get to all the questions. And so one of the follow-up questions that I got to was, how do we balance our time with discovery and prospecting? How do we, prospecting is important. How are we supposed to, make sure we have enough time to do good discovery, but then still make sure that we're making our calls and sending our emails, doing our outreach? And I said, well, wait a second. First of all, you make those calls so that you can have those discovery calls, right? You make those calls so you can schedule those meetings and have those conversations. So let's not shortchange ourselves, right? And at the same time, I think there's this misnomer that prospecting and discovery are two separate things. They're not. Prospecting is the way that you identify who you can help. You identify the ways that you can help them. You create tension in the process, which gives them a stimulus to do something. You demonstrate your expertise, and then you essentially ask for the call to action, right? I mean, it's prospecting, at least the way I think of it, is a microcosm of the entire sales process. And if we would stop thinking of it as this thing that we do that we don't like, but we feel like we need to do so we can go sell, and start thinking of it as really the basis of the sales process, one, I think more people would do it. Two, I think they would stop and pay attention to the more important elements of it, which, Bill, to your point in starting this off, discovery is the selling part. But the where this question came from was like, well, how am I supposed to do discovery if I have to do all this time, spend all this time prospecting? People skip good discovery because they don't realize what it is. They don't realize how to do it. And they don't want to be patient enough to do it well. And what I'm kind of working on right now is I don't think they're brave enough to do it right.
Ooh. Mm. So what is it? What is good discovery?
Good discovery is genuine interest, real bona fide curiosity, and also really just laying the groundwork, creating that context, and helping your prospects see their problem differently. Right? We have we've been told that since there's so much information out there, that our buyers are 2/3 of the way through their buying process and they know what they want. And we don't want salespeople anymore. We just want to know where we can buy and all these things. Let's think about that for a second. There's so much information out there. Most prospects don't know how to filter it all. Most prospects are overwhelmed. Most prospects are caught off guard by the paradox of choice. We talked a little bit in the green room and said, how do I get a little more exposure? Well, you could do this. Well, okay, I could do that, but I was already thinking about doing it this other way. Oh, you're right. That's kind of a stumper. Well, and then someone else comes into the conversation and says, well, you could do it this way. Now, all of a sudden, you know what I want to do? I want to go do something else. I don't want to decide. This is too much. Okay, every single one of your buyers is in the same place.
So it's the paralysis of analysis, right? There's just too much out there, so we don't do anything. And maybe that's the flip side too for sales reps. There's so much information to look through, Jeff. How do I weed through it to find the information that's important? Because listen, I have an ideal client profile right here, and that tells me everything I know about my client. So why do I need to do more discovery?
Well, because even though you have an ideal client profile, there's still some nuance. And let's be honest, if you treated every prospect like your ideal client profile avatar, they wouldn't feel like you made a connection with them. They'll feel like you tried. They'll feel like, oh yeah, this sounds like just about every other sales call I've gotten. Or, oh, I must be this person's ICP too, because this sounds like an interrogation, not an interview. How many salespeople do you know that are just checking boxes on their discovery? Okay, do you have the budget? It's the BANT checklist, or it's what? Look, you need to know that stuff. There's a reason that those aphorisms are around for as long as they are. Do you have budget for this? Do you have money for this is a better question. Budget is typically not the same, but we can talk about that another time. Are you the person, do you have the need and are you ready to buy now? Okay, but what about the context of what they're trying to accomplish? How do you take your ideal client profile and make them understand that it's not just that they need a solution for the problem that they have, but that they appreciate the differences that your solution brings to the table? You have to create that context. And that's when I say, Bill, you have to show your prospects a different way of appreciating their problem and giving them the context to understand how your solution could be the right one for them.
Yeah, I'm hearing two types of discovery here, which I had like this kind of light bulb moment. There's a discovery of what I need to make my sale, and there's the discovery of what I need to know to help them get to their solution.
Yes.
And there's those are different.
Yes.
And I'm hearing like this light bulb moment came on, so do you have budget for this? Is there anyone else that's involved in the sale? All of that is solely for the purpose of, can I close this business? Not, can I help this client?
Right. Right. And while you're discovering the nuance and the peculiar or particular situation that your prospect is in, you're helping them discover you. This is a two-way street here. This is where the connection is made. This is where the context is created. This is where you develop an understanding of their problem. This is where you create tension. This is where you demonstrate expertise. If you do all that stuff right, then good discovery also creates a level of comfort of working with you. You don't make a prospect comfortable by qualifying whether or not they have the money and the authority to work with you. You make a prospect comfortable by letting them know that you've been there. You've helped people in their situation get through these problems. You have created beneficial outcomes for people in the past. You believe that you can do it again. And based on what you know about their situation, I'm pretty confident I can do it again. And I can help you get to where you want to go. This is what I know. We're going to get you there. We're probably going to run into this issue, and this issue. We can work through those. I've worked through those in the past. If you're willing to be patient with me, if you're willing to help me help you through this process, we're going to get you there. Are you ready to go?
Yeah, I love that. Can I go back to the discovery? Because I love that. I think that's awesome. I just want to get back to the discovery, and I have 3 questions around this. because I get the first question is, what discovery can I do without my prospect?
Oh, you look at their LinkedIn profile, right? I mean, that's table stakes. That's where they start. You go to the website.
Great idea.
You check the.
What are you looking for? What are you looking for?
Right. Yeah.
I'm really just looking to get a feel for the language that they're using. I want an impression about about how they talk about what they do for people. I want to get an idea for the particular product that they sell. Again, how is it different? How do they feel about it? How do they present themselves? When you see something that's presented really well, particularly if it's a small business, right? And you know that someone close to the leadership of the business is responsible for writing that copy or presenting that website, even if they've had it done, right? You get a particular feel for how these companies speak about themselves, right? And how they put themselves out there. But I don't look for a ton. I just want to be familiar enough, and maybe I'm more confident than most, but I just want to have a barely working knowledge of their product, how they help people, so that I can get engaged in a conversation. And then I want to start asking questions. And so I almost want to create a situation where if I ask a few questions, like even directly, so, how would you say it is that you help your customers? How is that different than your biggest competitor? They'll say something and I can refer back to something I read on their website. Oh yeah, no, I saw that on your site. I want to do enough research that gives me an opportunity to let them know that I did enough research. That's it. It might be 5 minutes. And I'm looking for connections that we have in common. Maybe I can say something nice about someone else that, we both know. Just little rapport builders that show that I didn't just wake up, roll out of bed and pick up the phone, right?
Awesome. Second question, what are the top 3 questions you're asking most prospects?
Okay, so the best questions I can't tell you. And not because that's top secret and I'd tell you, but I'd have to kill you kind of things. But when I mentioned earlier that most people aren't brave enough to do good discovery, it's because I believe there are 3 levels of discovery questions you have to ask. You have to ask questions that they don't know the answers to, right? So you're trying to demonstrate a little expertise, or maybe you think they might know the answers to, but they've never thought about it that way. So Jeffrey Gitomer would call these power questions, these questions that make people stop, consider new information, and think in terms of you, right? Head tilt.
We call it the head tilt, the Cocker Spaniel look.
I call that the lean. Any change in posture, anytime you can get a change in posture, you've got a human being for the next half second.
We do. We say if you got a head tilt, actually, I call it the pug tilt, right?
Yes.
But you get the tilt, you're like, oh, you're winning.
Exactly. So you ask questions that they don't know the answers to, or that they have to think about the answers to. The next level, though, of questions are questions that you don't know the answer to as a seller. You want to, based on the information that they give you, based on the answers that they give you, this is where your genuine curiosity comes out. And you cannot be genuinely curious unless you're willing to be wrong. You can't come in with preconceived notions. Here's the problem. Discovery has become termed for, let me use questions to manipulate my prospect into a corner. I know what they're going to say. I just need to make them say it, so there'll be no other logical choice than to buy my product. And your prospects can smell that from a mile away. So when you get vulnerable enough, when you get vulnerable enough to just say, look, help me understand that. Go a little deeper. So you said this, like, okay, I think I know what that is, but help me. Am I on the right track here? It shows you're paying attention. It shows that you do not have a scripted, you don't have a script for how this call is going to go. And they know that you're leaning into. That's important. So the best questions are the ones that I don't know that I'm going to ask until I'm there. And that's why people aren't brave enough to give up that kind of control in their discovery sessions.
Okay, I have my quick third, and then Bill probably has.
Hold on. He only got to 2. There's a third level of question. I'm taking notes here.
The third level of questions, and I'll just be really quick.
Thank you.
These are the questions that neither of you know the answer to. These are the questions that between the two of you, conversation.
Neither of you know.
And so we're just kind of going up the ladder here. Now, these higher level questions, these tend to be forward thinking. These tend to be, okay, so what if we did this? What would that make possible? What could we do then? What does it mean to you to accomplish this? And if we did this together, what else could we do together? You don't always earn the right to ask that third level of question, but the best discovery sessions go there. So
before Brynne jumps in, I just have to say, like, so what this is about, Brynne, this is what we talk about, is having so that's a conversation. It's not a sales pitch. Right. You're developing a relationship and you're showing authenticity. And I love what you say in your blog. You talk about doing discovery with your clients, not on your clients. And that's the distinction right there. When you can have that kind of discussion and bring them into the process where you're both learning, then that's a win-win. So great stuff. Thank you.
Let's see. There we go. It's working on it. There we go.
So for those taking, there's actually folks in the chat, so that's been cool.
Oh, fabulous!
All right, I answered. You're good. So you're going to ask another question, Brynne.
We'll just say, hi, Jennifer. Glad you're having fun. Awesome. Third question, which I'm really excited about, because there's the discovery. So now we learn something about them, and what we typically do. And I want to know from a bona fide sales trainer if it's right. We ask a question, we hear an insight, we hear their perspective, and we share an insight. Is that appropriate?
I think so.
Okay.
I think you have to still monitor, and this is where it really requires a seller to be mindful and to pay attention to things. And this is part of the nuance of the conversation. Not every brand new seller is going to get this. Sometimes you got to be selling for 17 years, like I've done it, to really pick up on this. But you still should be listening more than you're talking, right? So when do you have that opportunity to provide an insight? And then how long do you carry that out, right? That's something that it's a skill that's honed over time. But I also I don't think it's the same as ask a question, listen to the answer, and then provide an insight for every question that you ask. Sometimes you need to ask 2 or 3 questions, or you go to those multi-levels of question, and it's like, okay, based on what you told me, help me understand again a little bit more. Oh, wow, I've never heard anybody say that. What do you mean by that? So you still have to be able to think on your feet, but monitor the dynamic of the conversation so that they're hopefully speaking more than you are. If they're not talking more than you, you're not asking very good questions.
So you're listening to understand. You're not listening to respond.
Oh, yeah, that's the biggest mistake that people make.
Especially sales professionals.
I know. I would say that's the biggest area for me to work on.
We want this control, right? People are in too much of a hurry to do good discovery. It's like, wait, and it's not just because I have more calls to make to hopefully get more discovery calls. It's like, wait a second, my manager suggested that I should be able to have this done in 20 minutes. So I've got 20 minutes. And when we get to 19, it's time to ask for the business. No, sometimes you need to ask for another discovery meeting because you haven't learned what you need to learn. Here's the thing, and this is different for everybody. In my line of work, I don't have an end of the month. I don't have an end of the quarter. I have an end of the year because Uncle Sam wants to know how the year went, right? So maybe that's a privileged position. I'd argue that. But at any rate, it's one of those things where I'm not concerned if I make that sale this week or next week, because on a long enough timeline and the length of time I keep my customers, that's a blip on a timeline that I don't need to pay attention to. Yeah, I don't. If it's the end of the quarter, then it may affect my forecast to my manager about when that deal closes. But every time I've missed a quarter, it's been water under the bridge when I crush a year. So those questions tend to answer themselves. If you do the right kind of discovery, the rest of the process falls into place. Your close rate goes through the roof. You have a better idea of what a better customer, your best customers look like, which allows you to find more like them. That is a flywheel that really gets cranking. And if you're not patient enough to do it right, look, if you don't have time to do it right, you don't have time to do it twice. What are you doing? So the best salespeople out there spend more time in discovery than the rest. And they also are willing to extend that discovery. Maybe 30 minutes isn't enough. You know what, Bill, we've been having a great discussion today, and I want to be mindful of your time. And I've got another meeting I've got to run to as well. But I need to know a little more. Can we get together in a couple of days? Just 15 minutes this time. I'm almost where I need to be, but I think I've given you some things to think about. I've got some things to think about. I just want to ask you a few more questions whenever you're able, and then we can move forward if it still makes sense. Does that make sense to you?
And when you do that to your prospect, first you have to wait for them to get up off the floor, because no salesperson has ever done that before. So they're going to fall over, and you've automatically differentiate yourself from everyone else, because you didn't say, so Jeff, when do you think we can get started on this project? As you slide the contract across the table with your $5 pen.
Yeah, I just don't see how that serves people. And I'm just willing to take a little bit of an extra, and I do this a lot with clients. And quite frankly, it means I give away a lot of free consulting, because I'm trying to understand if there's a real fit here. But once I understand if there's a real fit, it's really clear to them that there's a real fit too. Mm-hmm. I just didn't ask the closing question as soon as someone else wanted me to. I just don't understand how a few extra days makes that big of a difference. But metrics and CRMs and managers and VPs and everything bearing down on you, that pressure takes you out of good behaviors and good habits, and you gotta rise above that.
Wow, and that's what it is, and it's that patience factor. Mm-hmm. And you said it. Sales reps are rushing. They're rushing the discovery process for a number of reasons. I think we've named a few of them on this, and this has been wow. I've got a ton of notes. I can't wait to go back and watch it again. This has been great.
Awesome. No, thanks for having me. This has been fun.
We've had absolute blast, and I don't know how many mic drop moments. At least 3, right?
At least.
I'm gonna go back. I know I'm repeating myself, but I really want to drill down on. I think like my aha moment of the month, which is there are 2 types of discovery questions: the ones that help me close the business, and the ones that help my client solve their problem. And we need to be focused on the ones that help them solve their problem first.
Really like the way you summarize that.
Yeah. So Jeff, hey, thanks so much for being a part of this. For the folks that are watching or will be watching on a replay, I hope you got if you got half as much out of this as I did, you came away full. If you like this kind of content, make sure you go follow our LinkedIn page, and listen, check out socialsaleslink.com/library. You can get access to great recordings like this. In fact, I'll tell you a little secret. At the end of February, we're going to have this guy come back and do a members only webinar, but you have to be a silver member, which is free to take advantage of that. So go to socialsaleslink.com/library and you can sign up. So thanks for attending LinkedIn Life Live. We can't wait to see you the next time. Once again, Jeff, thank you so much.
Oh, and thank you.
All right. Bye, everyone.